Today we're going to be talking about what I find to be the best gun in Battlefield 6 right now, why that's the case, what it's good at, and what my best build for it is so you can use it too if you wish, including one important attachment selection that I think a lot of players get wrong. If you haven't been using this weapon, do yourself a favor and give it a go, even if you don't normally use SMGs, because this gun does what an SMG does and so much more. The PW5A3, a gun that lets you play with real freedom, even on some more open maps, as long as you don't go for, just straight up long range battles constantly. You do, of course, have to have some consideration for positioning, and not everyone is going to vibe with the same gun, so feel free to let me know which gun is your best one right now. But I've been hearing a lot of hype about the DRS, the TR7, and the Cord, and so on, and they're great guns when used correctly, but the PW5A3 is the one that's really boosted me in the last week or so, when I finally decided to dedicate some time to it. Now, I produce a lot of guides, tips, and cover the state of Battlefield regularly, so if that's what you like, this is the channel for you. Drop a sub and help me to hit 100k, thank you very much. So, the PW5A3 is extremely reliable right now for how the game is balanced. It's got the necessary raw killing power at close range to compete with the vast majority of guns you'll run into, which is very important considering how the maps on BF6 are generally structured for a fast time to action. You need to be able to drop people up close if you're going to be at all aggressive, and it's absolutely imperative when you factor in the netcode of this game and the overall times kill of weapons. Extremely melty feeling gunfights. A slower times kill is always rough at closer ranges, and a slower fire rate is especially bad when the game doesn't register some of your rounds. Thankfully, the PW5A3 has a fire rate of 771 rounds per minute plus 25 damage per round. A touch less lethal than, say, the SGX and falling behind the KV9, for example, but more than enough for most fights and with many other strengths on top. One of them being that it can be just a bit more controllable than the SGX, and it has better sustained fire than something like, again, the KV9, because that thing shoots so quickly and only has relatively small magazines when compared with that rate of fire. So if you don't want to be reloading constantly and perhaps don't want to grind for slightly larger magazines on some of those super rapid fire guns, then the PW5A3 is already in a good spot for you. Now, that sustained fire plus the controllability of this SMG, in tandem with just how reliable it is when it comes to landing damage, makes it a mid-range option as well. I mean, I honestly find this to be a better mid-range gun than a lot of carbines I've tried, weirdly, at least closer mid-range. The bullets actually land, and I know many of us have been struggling with a combination of spread issues and netcode problems for a while. I'll likely have more to come on that in another video soon, why your shots don't land and whether you can hope that's going to be fixed up. So again, drop a subscription if you don't want to miss out on that and a lot more. So when I started using the PW5A3 regularly, it was such a relief. I mean, all you have to do is look at the footage to see how reliable and consistent it actually is. And if you burst fire it, you can occasionally pick off a weak enemy in the distance as well. And it probably sounds very strange, but this is my genuine mid-ish range gun now. I just ignore what the game says each gun is, and instead look at how they perform. So it's irrelevant to me that it's labeled as an SMG. Instead, to me, with current balancing, this is just a versatile gun that boosts overall reliability, which helps with one of my main pain points with the game. Just feeling like it's very random whether my bullets hit the target or not. This could all change with further patches and weapon balancing, of course, but right now this gun is awesome for me. Of course, my overall build or attachment selection helps a lot with this too, so let's dive into that, starting with the sight. We have the BF2M 2.5x. Yes, a magnified scope on an SMG. Slightly unusual, but I actually do this with a lot of my guns, regardless of what they happen to be. Again, I'm ignoring what the gun is labeled as and just looking at how it performs. So the visibility in this game, seeing the enemy, can be rough, which is why I've already produced 2 visibility improvement guides you can find on my channel if you want them. A magnified scope helps with picking the enemy out against the environment, and even just for scanning a little of what's ahead of you so you don't just run into danger. And I have been saying that the PW5A3 is a mid-range option as well as close range, so it makes sense to select a sight that can assist with mid-range play. It's also not so magnified that it makes close range difficult. I have no problem using it up close, and I feel like most of you guys wouldn't have a problem with it either. If you go for a much more magnified scope, then yes, it will likely start to hurt you, and a lower magnification can make the gun feel even easier to use, but you'll find it a little harder to spot the enemies a bit further out than if you're using this scope. So this is the sweet spot in my opinion. You can of course differ it for whatever works for you. Then for our right hand accessory, I go for the 20-point green laser, the 50 MW green. The 30-point laser will be too expensive even when I do unlock it, and the 20-point blue laser reduces the hipfire, which isn't what I'm looking for. Having solid hipfire when you're running a weapon which will have you coming up against close range enemies a lot is a massive boost. And whilst this laser is visible for the enemy, unlike the cheapest laser available, I find that to be almost a total non-factor for how I play, so I'll happily take the better hipfire, and I recommend you do too, unless you're sitting in corners a lot hoping to not be seen. Next, for the muzzle, it's the 20-point standard suppressor. If I can afford a suppressor on a build without hugely hurting what I want the weapon to do, I'll take one. Avoiding the big red marker over your head when you fire, and not appearing on the minimap for players a fairly small distance away from you, can be huge. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting a kill and then dying from being seen over and over again. There's so much randomness in Battlefield, it makes sense to control any element of it that you can. And while the other suppressors are better, they're just a bit too expensive again for the rest of this build. And this setup already feels very smooth and reliable anyway. Onto the barrel, and we have the extended for 15 points, known as the 245mm custom, giving us faster projectile velocity, tying in both the concept of not just using the SMG up close, but also at mid-range. The faster the bullet travels, the more chance you have of hitting the target in good time and not needing to lead your shots as much, making everything that bit more effective and a bit easier. Versatility is often what I'm looking for from my favorite guns, so the PW5A3 really delivers with this build. Then we have no left accessory, so we move to the underbarrel. This is where I think a lot of players make choices that don't actually fit what they're looking for. I've chosen the 20-point alloy vertical for slightly reduced recoil. Firstly, this keeps the cost down as a lot of underbarrels are very expensive. Secondly, this already makes the gun feel very stable. Thirdly, I don't want to lose some agility from using the ribbed vertical. But fourthly, and most importantly, whilst a lot of other underbarrels boost the stat bars more, they also have negative effects that a lot of players ignore or don't think about. So whilst the stat bars may be boosted a lot by other underbarrels, it can also say something like at the cost of ADS accuracy while moving. I don't want that. Maybe you don't want that either. And having played a fair amount of this game, I actually find the cheap underbarrels that give you a bit of a control boost tend to be better value for your point distribution a lot of the time. Like 45 points for the low profile stubby? I don't think so, that's way too much. So alloy vertical it is. For the magazine now, it's the 30 round fast mag. Really simple, I want lots of rounds and I want to reload fast. Very good for both sustained fire at mid-range and taking on multiple enemies at close range, reloading fast and getting back into the fight again. And the 40 round magazine is just too expensive at 25 points. And then for ammunition, we have the standard 5-point FMG ammo because we only have 5 points left and I'm not looking to bring down the precision and control of the weapon with the tungsten core ammo, which of course means we have no ergonomic attachment either, and that's how my PW5A3 performs as it does. Try it and let me know what you think of it, or drop your own build in the comments below. I'd really appreciate you taking a second to hit the like button to help this video out, and again subscribe if you haven't, if you'd like to see more. I've got a rapid fire 100 tips video for BF6 available in the description if you'd like to see that next. Patreon is also down there if you'd like to directly support the continuation of content on this channel. Thank you for any signups there, and YouTube is now suggesting another video of mine it thinks you'll like. I'll see you over there.